Welcome to VB Coding, you can call me Bee. Today we are getting started with VBA, or Visual Basic for Applications. This is how you can do coding within Microsoft Excel. We will be covering how to display the developer tab in Excel. We will talk about the file type to use, how to enable macros, opening Visual Basic, creating and renaming modules, and helpful tips and tricks. By default, the developer tab is not shown. So to display it, go to File, Options, and in the pop-up window, go to Customize Ribbon, and on the far right side, check the box for Developer, hit OK. You'll now see the Developer tab up in your ribbon, and from there, click on Visual Basic to start coding. When saving your workbook, save it as Excel macro-enabled workbook. And a quick note, the next time you reopen this workbook after it has been closed, you'll see a yellow bar underneath your ribbon. Make sure you click on Enable Content so then your macros can't execute. The location where your coding is made is within modules within Visual Basic. So to create a new module, open Visual Basic and go to Insert, click on Module. You can rename modules by going to the Properties section underneath them and rename there. If you don't see the Properties section, then press F4 and F4 will bring up the properties. If you want to execute coding without having to open up Visual Basic, you can assign macros to a button that people can click just in a normal sheet. And to do that, go to the Developer tab, go to Insert, and from there, you can click on this first icon for buttons to make a button. Right-click on the button and assign a macro, and you'll be good to go. A quick side note though, if your workbook has a opening or closing bracket in the file string, then you will get a strange message when trying to assign a macro to a button. You'll see a pop-up saying formula is too complex to be assigned to the object, or to assign to object. And to fix that is you can either A, rename the file path that your workbook is in to take out a bracket, or you can save the workbook to your desktop, assign the macro to a button, and then you can move your workbook back to where you want it to be if you really do need brackets to stay in your file path. So I have 4 slides of common tips and tools that will get you through, I think, over 90% of your macro projects. So feel free to pause at any time to take a screenshot. But we will be going through a majority of these through today's example, so I will try to speed through these quickly, and then we'll get started. So you create variables by first entering dim, which means dimension, give your variable a name, and then give it a data type. So the common data types that I use are integer and string. I have also used double and objects. You can also Google VBA data types and you'll pull up a Microsoft form of all of the macro variable data types. But again, I use integer and string the most personally. You can make comments in your code by using a apostrophe, and then you'll see all of the text after it turn green. And that's helpful if you want to keep some code, but you don't want it to execute. You can comment it out just by adding an apostrophe at the beginning. You can step through your code to execute it one line at a time by pressing F8. Sometimes if you're working on a laptop, you may have to press Fn and F8 together. There are multiple ways to select a cell or a range, including you can say, range B3 dot select, or you can reference the specific row and column that it is for. So cells 3 comma 2, that is row 3, column 2. You can put variables in the places of those locations as well. So we can say cells current row, such as how we define it up here, comma 2. You can flip it, you can use the variable in the column as well, that's fine. You can reference a location using the R1C1 method. And this is saying if you do not use brackets around the numbers, that is the exact location that you are telling your macro to go to. So R3C2, you are specifically saying row 3, column 2. If you use brackets, that is going to reference a location relative to the current cell that you were selected on. So R-1 with brackets means you are going up 1 row. C +5 in brackets, you are going to the right 5 columns. So negative rows, you're going up. Positive rows, you're going down. Negative columns, you're going to the left. Positive columns, you're going to the right. You can also move to another cell relative to your current location by using offset, which still uses selection.offset. Still uses the column and row numbers. It'll always be in this order. So offset 0, 1 means I'm staying in the same row, but moving over 1 column to the right. If you want to stay in the same row, put a 0 in the first number. If you want to stay in the same column, put a 0 in the second number. You can refer to ranges either by specifically calling out the column name, A, B, C, or you can use the same method we learned up here to replace those references. So I'm saying range, cells, row 1, column 3, comma, cells, row 5, column 3. Make sure you're putting your closing parentheses and put in .select. You can have your macros save the workbook by doing active workbook.save. Moving on to our second tab, you can view the value that a variable has by hovering your mouse over that value in VBA. Also, you can go to View, click on Immediate Window, and it'll open up a little pop-up window that looks blank, but in your macro coding, type in debug.print space, put in your variable name, and then the next time you are stepping through your code by pressing F8 or executing it entirely, the immediate window will show the value. You can also hard code in values, like if you want to put in breaks between what it is displaying. I just said, just hard code some kind of symbol to act as my break. Or if you want to remind yourself what that value was for, then you can put in a string such as, favorite food, surrounded by quotation marks, ampersand, and then put your variable. Because it can get confusing if you're displaying multiple values and you lose track of, what was this for again? So that's where that comes in handy. You can repeat coding for multiple rows or sheets. So I use do until loop to repeat coding for multiple rows, and I've used for each next to repeat coding for multiple sheets. You can have one macro call on another by using call space and then the name of that coding. So this is this is the name that you see after sub. This is not the name of the module, because a module could contain multiple bits of code, starting with sub. And this will make more sense once we start coding. You can make your coding jump to a different line in the code by typing in goto space and just give it a name. Whatever you put after goto, you do not need to first define with that, dim that we saw on the first slide, for dimension. And then later on, where you want the coding to jump to, you would actually put in that same name, colon, and hit enter. And you'll be set. Oh, and that's also helpful for if you're in the middle of a loop and you don't want it to continue on anymore, you can use that to exit a loop if you like. So, third slide. As a macro is executing, it is like as if you yourself were doing all of the work. So when you have the macro click between different sheets, you are going to see, as the coding is executing, your workbook could go between the different sheets as well. And having your screen constantly changing, updating, flashing can be maybe annoying or disorienting. So you can turn that off by saying application.screen updating equals false. You can turn off pop-ups with a similar message using display alerts equals false. And at the end of your macro, you can type in those exact same bits of code there, but just say equals true, just to turn it back on. You can add pop-up messages appear. This can be nice where after the macro is done running, it's nice to have a message to say, hey, it is completely done. You can start using your computer again. And you do that with MSG box space, put in your message surrounded by quotation marks, comma, comma, and then give a title for your pop-up message, which I have an example over here on the right. This is just a simple example. You can protect worksheets, you can lock and unlock cells, you can hide formulas. All examples shared here, just in case if you need it. You can also do calculations with evaluate. Personally, I like to have my columns keep the formulas just for my own reference to remind myself, what did I do here? So I personally don't use evaluate too much, but sharing here just in case, or just so you know that it is available to you. So my last slide, this is more suggestions than actual tips. Well, yeah, there's a few tips. While executing a do until, I like to do until a certain row or until a certain cell is empty. But just make sure if you do that the column that you're using as your reference has a value for every row, just to make sure it doesn't execute, or just make sure it doesn't end prematurely. There are a couple ways to find the last cell in a column. You could use do until to find the last row that has data, but that can take a while if you have a lot of data. You can instead make a new variable. So I could say dim bot row as integer, and then when I give it a value, I'm saying range, and that number is the last row number in Microsoft Excel. So I just said range a 1,048,576 dot end xl up dot row, and this is essentially the same as doing Control Shift up on your computer or on your keyboard. You can do a similar method using Control Shift down, but if you do that, you run into the issue of if the second row doesn't have any data, or if the sheet doesn't have any information, it'll just go to the very last row in Excel, and that's not what you want. But just so you know, there are multiple ways to accomplish the same thing. If you are repeating the same formula or calculation for multiple cells, for multiple rows, you can use do until to repeat for each row, but it can take a while if you have many rows. So instead, you can use this autofill destination coding. And this is similar to when you click the bottom right corner of a cell 2 times and that autofills everything underneath. It's the same idea. if you are inserting or removing rows or columns, especially in a do until loop, just be mindful of if you are keeping track of what the current row is. If you add in new rows or subtract, well, now the count is going to be off. So just be mindful of what that variable should be. So maybe at the end of your loop, where you normally see current row equals current row plus 1, maybe before that you may have to maybe subtract or add a row to make the count be correct before the loop continues on as normal. And my final bit of advice, take advantage of the record macro button. It is a tool, use it. But don't treat whatever it records as the final copy. It's not the golden copy. After you finish recording some coding, always go back into the modules, add in comments, clean it up, take away unnecessary coding. Use variables so then your coding is flexible. Because as you run your coding for different data sets from month to month, one month might have 20 rows, but the second month might have 50 rows. So use variables. And with that, let's start our example. I've opened up a new workbook. To get started, I need to save this as a macro-enabled workbook. While saving my workbook, I'm clicking on Excel macro-enabled workbook, gave it a name, and hit save. The developer tab is hidden by default. To show this, I'm going to go to File and Options. In the Excel options, go to Customize Ribbon, and on the right side, click on Developer and hit OK. And now we can see the Developer tab at the top. For today's example, I am going to show how to clean up some data and pretend I'm cleaning it up for importing it into our maybe our ERP. So we have received, either from the vendor or somebody else on our team, we have a text file of a list of orders from our different locations, what they want to order, whether it's t-shirts, plushies, pens, what's the cost of those items, the tax and shipping. But we want to have our Excel spreadsheet organized where there is one row for each cost. Also, this video is going to be a little bit of a redemption arc compared to our last video where we did our getting started with Power BI, where I repeatedly mistyped the word leopard. So, I have learned L-E-O. I kept typing L-E-A last time. In our workbook, I like to have one sheet have the raw data. So I'm going to name one tab raw data. I'm going to have another tab for working, where we might insert new columns, rows. And then our last tab will be final, or import. It'll be where our final data will be after we're done adjusting it. So I'm going to copy from our text file, paste in here. Let's open Visual Basic. So in Visual Basic, where your coding is going to be actually done is within modules. So go to Insert, Module. And here you go. This is where we're actually going to get started. So, starting your code, we do sub, space, and now we're going to give it a name. I am just going to call it organize. Hit enter, and when I hit enter, these parentheses and the end sub appeared automatically. And it's good where at the beginning of your code, keep comments, keep dates, keep track of everything. So I can say, to start your comment, put in a single apostrophe. And I can just say author, VeeBee, created, on today, purpose, reorganize orders data for import. You can block off different sections of your code. So here I can say changes made. It may be down the line if this macro needed updates. I'll keep track of those here. While I'm writing it today, I'm not going to track every single thing as today's copies, but if there are adjustments needed later on in the month or down the line, keep track. We will want to keep track of all of our variables. You can create variables as you're writing, but it's just nice to have everything in one spot. So I can say I know I'm going to use a current row variable, so I'm just going to say dim current row as integer. And I'm using integer because it's going to be a whole number. There is no row 2.5. If I am working with a variable with decimals, then I would put double. You can add comments at the end of coding, so I can say off to the side, current row or C row equals current row. In case somebody's coming after me and they're wondering, what is crow? What does that mean? There you go. I'm going to add a second variable, hot row as integer. For last row that has data. I'm going to expand that a little bit. Just for readability, trying to keep my comments aligned with one another. So for renaming your module, you can click on it, and down below in Properties, go to Name. And to also keep my coding in order, if I had multiple modules, I like to do, A, B, C as the beginning. So I'll say A_organize. If for whatever reason you don't see the properties, then press F4 and it'll pop back up. If for whatever reason you lose your window with your projects, you can click on Project Explorer and it'll come back up. And again, F4 to bring up properties. For our first step, let's say step 1, delimit raw data. And by that, I mean, you see the data is separated by tildes. You may see it separated by pipes or by commas. When I say delimit, I mean we want to move the data, each section, into its own individual column. So it's no longer everything concatenated using that symbol. So just for an explanation, break up raw data to be in separate columns. First, limit the data. So back in our developer tab, I'm going to click on record macro. And you can give it a name if you'd like. Yeah, we can do that, recording. And you see this new module appeared. I can double click that. And this is where, as I'm moving around and doing things, it's going to record it. So see, I can type in something here, and it's saved. Here, let me get rid of that. So we want to do text to columns, delimited. Make sure you can see that. Next. It is delimited by a tilde. So I'm going to use other. You can see the preview where it is already breaking up all of the data. And I can just hit finish. But you can also see when you hit next what that looks like. Hit finish. And now that looks nice. I can highlight everything. And I'm double clicking between a couple of columns so it auto adjusts those fields. Go back to developer and stop the recording. So let's go back over to our new module and see how does this look. So this is everything that it captured during that recording. But like I was saying before, whenever you use that recording, don't treat it as a golden copy. So I want to make sure this is clean, so take out anything that's not necessary. So we had our first example where I just typed in random strings and then I cleared it out, so that's not needed. Let's take all that out. Even when I was adjusting my screen, that's not needed. So here's where it really got, or here's where this is actually important. I had selected column A and then did my text to columns. So that looks nice. And that's really all I wanted from here. So I can take this from my recording and go back to my golden copy and paste. If you want to align this to the far left, you can highlight everything and do Shift Tab, and then it'll move everything to the left. You can also have your macro shade in cells. So just to show you what that looks like, here I'll start another recording. And in the same module that it started recording, it made a new section for this current recording. So now we see a new sub for our second macro. I can highlight all of these cells and highlight. Go back to developer, stop recording. If I wanted to execute this entire bit of code all at once, I can delete the end sub of the first one and the beginning sub of the other one. And now this would be treated as all one bit of code. But this is from our first recording that we already copied over, so I don't need that anymore. And this is where I say, you know, please do take advantage of that record macro button. You don't need to memorize all of this. So now that I have this bit of code, I can just copy this and paste in our golden copy. Don't forget to add in comments. So this is highlighting column headers in yellow. And I'm just going to keep copying my page breaks here. Keep everything organized in their own sections. That was step 1, getting all of our data into different columns. So now I'm just going to keep hitting enter. And I can actually just copy this, paste it down here just to keep the same formatting. Step 2, organize the data. And another comment, this is where we will make new rows so that each amount has its own designated row to simplify the import. So I wanted to keep one golden copy, the original raw data, in one tab. If I am going to be making some pretty major adjustments, I would want to do that in a working tab. At least that way I can always go back to see how did it look before. Make a new recording. And since I already copied over what I needed, I can still work back in here. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, go to working, paste. So I've stopped the recording. Let's go back and see how does it look. So one thing I noticed is if you have multiple tabs in your workbook, it can possibly get confused of where to execute the code. If you expected it to execute on a certain column or in a certain tab, but you happen to be somewhere else when you first started to execute the code, it can be confused. So this is where at the start of the recording, I should have clicked on the tab name first, just to get that in here. But I can add it back in. So it should have started at sheets called raw data. You can instead use a number instead of the name of the sheet. I could have said sheet 1, sheet 2, but that can also cause some issues if you rearrange tab names, or sorry, if you rearrange the tab order. But likewise, if you renamed a tab, that might cause an issue too. So just be aware there can be hiccups here and there. So on the raw data tab, I highlighted the information and copied it. And actually, I had highlighted the specific rows. To be more safe, I'm going to say highlight all of column A through F, just in case if maybe next month there's 30 rows instead of 7. So now I'm highlighting all of the columns, I'm copying, I clicked on the working tab, click in A1 and paste. I highlighted all of columns A through G, auto fit, and if I don't select anywhere else, it might still be highlighting those columns in their entirety. So I personally like to go back and say, you know, click on A1 just to be selected somewhere else. And this is fine. So this is cleaned up, it looks much better. If I wanted to, I could tap these over so it's even more clear to see this coding was done on this sheet. And I can do Shift Tab so everything comes over to the left. Copy, paste in our golden copy. Give it a comment. This is where we were copying raw data to our working tab. So our next step, we will create new rows for each cost. So this is taking advantage of our current row variable that we created earlier. So our current row value is going to be 2 because row 2 is where our first row of actual data is, because row 1 is just headers. We don't care about headers. So because I'll be repeating for all the rows, I'm going to say do until cells, whatever current row that we're in column 1 or column A, the value is nothing. And this is, again, just the cells.value equals, and then 2 pairs of quotation marks. There's no space, there's nothing in between them. They're side by side. So just to show you how, or at least what I'm thinking of, I want to create 2 new rows and then copy what's up there to here. And just for me to easily see these are copies, I will make them gray. So another couple of things I actually did want to add in was I'm going to have the amount column. I'm going to have the, what was the type, whether it was the cost, the tax of shipping, and then a full description. Here we go. So going back, to what it had recorded, it saw I was on rows 3 and 4, and I shifted down, but I don't want to specify the actual row numbers because as my loop is going to go down the rows, well, when I actually get to here, well, it'll keep saying rows 3 and 4, so it'll keep expanding up here when I don't want it to, because I want to make new rows for this record now, for the plushies. And just for reference, I can actually comment that out, so I still have it there, but now I'm going to actually rewrite how I want it to be. I'm going to put in a range. Referencing the cells. For when my loop started, I was on current row equals 2. The new rows are 3 and 4. So to reference row 3, it's actually going to be my current row, which again was 2, do +1 to get 3, comma 1 to represent column A. And now for my second cell, I'll do cells current row +2 to be current row of 2 +2 to get to row 4, comma 6. And I'm doing 6 because that's column F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Close my parentheses. And it'll insert those 2 rows. A similar situation with the values in row 2, where I would want to comment, I would want to copy that and paste it down here. Likewise, I want to do what I did up here, so do range. The first cell will be just normal current row, so I'll just do crow 1. And now the second cell, cells current row 6. That's select. It's going to copy that. And I need to go down to the following 2 rows. Range the first cell to be in row 3 and column A, so I'll do comma 1, cells current row +2 to be in row 4. That's select. Paste. In this row here, the application cut copy mode, this is where I had hit escape to get rid of the dotted line, or what you might call the marching ants, surrounding what I had copied. So I can leave a comment saying, turning off marching ants. And then this is where we shaded in gray the new new rows. The copies. And we're going to be looping quite a bit, so I really don't need that row, that comment there. Here we go. So in my final version, I would take out these sections here, but just for today's tutorial, I'm keeping them. So in our first loop, again, this is do until the cell on our currently selected row in column A, comma 1, the value is nothing. It is going to make 2 new rows, and I'm choosing to do 2 new rows instead of 1 new row because I want to have 1 row for each cost. So this first row, I'll record the actual cost of the product itself. The second row, I'll make this for the tax, and the third row, I'll make the shipping. I do have more coding to do, but before I forget, at the end of your do until, you want to put a loop, and in normal cases I would do current row equals current row plus 1, In this case, because I am adding 2 rows underneath each main record, I am actually going to do +3. So in the future, when I say current row is 2, at the end of the loop, I'll do +3. So 1, 2, 3. This will be the next time, the next main record, from which it'll make 2 new rows and continue on. So that is why I'm doing +3 instead of +1. But while I'm here, I want to add in the dollar amount and the type. So just to cheat, I'm recording again. So for the amount, I'll do costs, tax, shipping. And for the type, that represents the cost, tax, and shipping. Stop recording. And now let's clean this up a bit. So instead of G2, this is going to be cells, the current row, comma 7, because if A is 1, B is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dot select. Get rid of what's not needed. The formula is what we saw in our slides earlier. It used the brackets to be the relative location of where we were, or to reference a cell that was relative to where we were. So no number was beside the R, so we stayed in the same row, but then in brackets it went back three columns. 1, 2, 3 to grab the costs. And just so everything is together, instead of commenting that out, I'm just going to replace it. So in column H, that is going to be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Column 8 is H. The formula will be costs. So now for G3, that's going to be next row down from our current main row. So I'm going to do current row +1. And that formula instead is going 2 columns to the left. So 1, 2, to grab the text. And just to keep the type together, I'm just copying that up. Paste that here. But don't forget, this is going to be column 8. And last but not least, we have our second new row. This will be current row +2. And that is going to go back and look at 1 column to the left. So it was here. Going 1 column to the left will be shipping. don't forget our description. And that will be good. So now that we have cleaned up our coding that was recorded, I can Control C to copy, go back in here, and within our loop, before the ending of our loop, but after what we've already done, and make him some space to put here. And this is where we are entering each amount and their type, cost, tax, shipping. And besides having the main breaks between the sections of our code, I could put in maybe a baby break. So I'll do that, and then maybe, you know, some periods instead. So that way, even within our loop, we can have things sectioned off, easier to read. And actually, for our do until, this is as far as we want to go from here. So I can undo what we've done so far just to test it out. And to show you how to jump from one piece of code to another, let's do that underneath our variables. Let's go to here. I'm not going to define it up here. I'm not going to do dim here as string. This is all you do. So now down here, this is after we've already copied to our working table, to our working tab, to here, colon, enter. So now I'm going to step through our coding. I'm going to press F8, 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 and see how it jumped from the beginning. It skipped all of this and went straight here. F8. If I wanted to execute all of our code without hitting F8 again and again and again, instead, you can hit this green play button at the top and it'll auto-execute everything here. If you want it to auto-execute up to a certain point, you can left-click on the bar over here to make a stop. So then when you hit play, it'll come all the way down and stop right here, highlighting in yellow. And from there, you can press F8 if you wanted to execute manually. So I'm just pressing F8, F8, again and again, watching it execute. Let's see how well it goes. Just pressing again and again. Now current row equals current row plus 3. And actually, before that finishes, let's do debug.print space pro. And to see what that debug print will display, I need to show the immediate window, which you go to view, go to immediate window, and it made this. So once I press F8, F8, we can see down here, it thinks that the current row value is 5, which would be correct. That's the next not gray row. And I can also add in a reminder of what this variable is for. So I can hard code in a string. I can say current row is now space ampersand. I can left click this arrow to drag it back up if I want to re-execute a piece of code again. So I'm pressing F8 again. Current row is now 5. Pressing F8, I'm now back at the top of our do until loop. It's making 2 new rows for the next main record. It looks good. I'm pressing F8 again and again. It now thinks the next row is 8, which is correct. So from here, I don't have to keep pressing F8. I'm going to press the play button and it finished on its own. So the debug print was just for verifying, so I can actually comment that out, but I can keep it in if I want to ever uncomment it to use it again. For this immediate window, you can just go down here, highlight, backspace, clear it out, and you're all good. So breaking off a new section of our code, I'm now going to do step 3, which is where we want to put in our description. And for extra coding or extra comments, this will be an example where we're going to copy the formula from one cell, and essentially using Control-Shift-Up to paste in all. This is an example where we're copying something for one column. As you're working, always save. I like to do Control-S. And since I've been copying what I've needed from our recording, I can keep highlighting everything and doing backspace if I want to, that's fine. Or I can close this. And if you want to get rid of module, you can right click it, remove module. You'll get this pop-up, do you want to export? I usually just say no. I got what I needed. I don't need it. I'm going to record a new one. And when I start recording a new one, it already made a new module. So for this, there are multiple ways to concatenate or glue together multiple cells, but this is just one way. I want to glue together the location, the item, and the type, or the cost type rather. Enter. So with the formula in here, I'm going to Control-C to copy, click in the previous column, and do Control-down arrow. And technically in the coding I'm going to change this to offset, but just for my own placeholder, I'm going to click on that bottom row, Control-Shift-Up, Control-V to paste. You can hit Escape to stop the marching ants at the top, and you're good. Stop recording. And now this will need quite a bit of cleanup before we move it to our golden copy. So using the reference I2, that's fine. We put in the formula, and it already is using references to relative locations, so I don't need to change this. don't care about, where I adjusted the width of the column. So selecting still on I2, I copied it, click on H2, that's fine. This is where we did control down. Now, this is where we're going to offset. So, instead of saying go back into, I-19, instead I'm going to say whatever I was currently selected on, I'm going to select, offset, stay in the same row, but go over one column. Select. Selection. I think I was typing correctly the first time. It does the control shift up. Control shift up. Paste. And I just like to select back in just one single cell just to make it look nice after it's done running that section. Now this is cleaned up, so I can copy this, go back to our golden copy, paste under step 3, and don't forget to save. Copy our line break. And this will be step 4, where we're going to enter in the order number and line number. And this will be our example of copying formulas down, similar to if you double-clicked the bottom right corner of the cell. So where previously we were copying down formulas for one column, this is our example for multiple columns. So we need to enter our order number and line number. And by this I'm thinking, let's say the order for Leo's leopards, that's going to be one order. For Sarah's serpents, that's another order. And then Ruby's reptiles, that'll be a third order. Meanwhile, we have multiple rows for our import file. So we'll do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yada, yada, yada. So let's start recording. And I've already cleaned up and used that bit of code, so let's make a new recording. So starting in column J, order number 1, line number 1. Now the second row, this is where we're going to start entering formulas. So I'm going to say this will be if that location is equal to location up above it, then use the same order number that we see up above. Otherwise, take that order number and do +1. For the line number, it is simply going to take the previous number and do +1. So right now you're probably thinking, what if Leo's leopards appears again later on, well, maybe it's a different order. It kind of depends on how your information's coming to you. This is just what we're doing here. Adjust as you see fit. So what I'm essentially going to do is, you know how you can copy or highlight these two cells and double click that corner to copy things down? Well, we're going to do something very similar but with autofill. I've stopped my recording and I'm going to keep my reference to J2 and K2 and how they're being filled with the value 1. That's totally fine still. J3 gets one formula, K3 gets its own formula. That's still okay. But now, once we highlight J3 and K3 together, this is where I'm going to replace this. And instead, actually, we still need to define our bottom row. So we have bottom row called out in our variable, so it's already been called, it's already been created. But I still need to give it a actual value. So I'm going to say bottom row equals range A 1,048,576. That being the last row available in Microsoft Excel. Do period, end, open parentheses, XL, up, dot, row. And we can do debug print bot row. Get our immediate window back open just to see how that appears. And I'm just saying the dim bot row again in this recording, but we only need to say it once in our golden copy. But just for our example here, as we are testing things out, going to move things slightly to the side so we can see. F8, 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 debug print bot row. It thinks the bottom row is 19, which we can verify. Off to the side, that is correct. So I can comment that out. Pressing F8. F8, F8. Now in J3, putting in the formula. Highlighting both. Oh, and I forgot. I forgot to actually autofill. So for that formula, once everything is highlighted, you do selection, autofill, space, destination, colon equals range from J3, colon to K, and now closing quotation marks, ampersand, use our bot row variable, and now we'll be good. Wait, take that out, F8, F8, and see it autofilled. And just because I like it to select back in one cell to look nice, just cause. That is all good. So we've tested it, it works. So I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm not including that dimbot row because I already have that in my golden copy. Paste it under our step 4. Control S to save. We have everything filled in. And now from here, we can just cheat for our last bit of cleanup. Back to our recording. If I wanted this just in one spot, I can go back here and let's actually grab the line number, Control C to copy, paste special values just to keep the value, without formulas, without the column highlighting. And let's say amount. And stop recording. And whatever needs you have will definitely be different than what we're doing right here. But this is just a quick example of here's where after you've edited the raw data that you got like this. Here, I still have our text file open. So remember how you received this data initially like this. Text file, everything on one row separated by tildes. Well, we took that raw data, pasted into Excel. We did some working, a little bit of manipulation. And now we have a clean file that we can import into our application where there's just one row for every dollar amount. Oh, and if I wanted to, I could have changed this to that. There we go. Now it's pretty. And from here, you can copy the sheet into a new workbook, save the new workbook, import it that way. Make sure you save your file, save your support. But this is the final product of at least our data. So now just for some minor housekeeping, well, first off, we still need to put this in our golden copy. In our recording, let's copy the entire column K. We copied it from working, we put it in our import. We went back into working, we copied column J. Let's take out the row numbers so it takes the entire thing. Copied it, we went into the import and pasted. So feel free to indent things, make it easier to read for yourself. We went back into working, we copied column I, went back into import. And then column G. We went back into import. So that was just us copying one column at a time from working to import, working to import. All good. We made columns. We highlighted the columns. We did auto fit. That all looks fine. So I can just copy this, go back to our final, our golden copy, paste. And I still need to put in my break and the step number. So that was before all of our working import, so that goes here. So step 5. This is prepare import. Do our final break. And in case we, the user, forget, let's have the workbook save itself. So let's do active workbook.save, and then message box will say the macro has completed running. Here we go, and save. I'm going to get rid of any extra modules that we're not using. There we go. So just for fun, I'm going to delete everything we did, and let's run everything. We've been testing it out as we've been going along, but now let's give it a shot. Oh, and also let's take out our go-to, otherwise it will just hop right down. So I'm going to do Control F to find where I put here. Comment that out. Okay. That could have been bad. And before we really get started, I want to make sure we are on sheet raw data. Okay. And hit play. Mess something up. So I did line number goes to column A. Come on, go up. There we go. F8, F8. Now it's happy. That's what I needed. Everything else looks at B1, C1, those will work, D1. Okay, so from here, I can just hit play again. And here's our incorrectly spelled complete sign. The macro has completed running. Compelled. Complete. Here we go. So our macro has finished being written. So for other things I like to do, and to make it more user-friendly for other people, is I am going to make a new tab, move it to the front, and this will be our cover sheet. And you can change this color, to be something else, make it stick out more. And just format it as however way you'd like. So this is for organize, order, data. Make it pretty. You can say created. What day is today? Last modified. I'll just put NA, not applicable. And just in case if somebody else other than you is running this, You know, leave a description. Leave them information that could be handy. Once I'm done making this pretty. To organize data of orders received into separate columns, preparing information for import. Leave steps for the user of how to use your workbook. So step 1, copy information from orders text file to the raw data tab. Step 2, I'm actually going to make a button for them to click, so they don't need to know how to use the developer tab, they don't need to unlock it. I'm going to make this as simple as possible. So click the button below. To run macro. To make the button, go to developer, insert, and click on this first button here. Draw your button. And this is the name of our golden copy coding that we've been working on. And hit OK. If you get a pop-up message saying, you know, essentially you can't do it, that's because wherever your workbook is saved, the file path has a opening or closing bracket. So either update your file path or save your workbook to your desktop, map your coding to your button, and then you can move your file back to where it should be, wherever it should be. If you want to adjust the text or the dimensions of your button, first right click it, because if you left click it, it's going to run your code. So right click first. So now you see the little circles appear around it. Now I can adjust the size. I can highlight the text. Call it organized data. Step 3. Copy import tab to new workbook, to archive, and import into application, or wherever you're gonna use it, do with it. Step 4, after saving, import, click, I'm going to make a new button below, to reset workbook for next use. And I haven't made the coding yet. It's going to be very simple. So for this, I'm going to make a cleanup button. And so, let me get this back to kind of how it was. Record, cleanup, I want it to go into the raw data tab and clear out everything here. And I will click it back into A1 just so it's nice and neat, it's not randomly selected anywhere else. Go to the working tab. I'll keep the headers just for my own reference. Highlight, and I'm actually going to delete these rows entirely instead of hitting, delete on my keyboard, because I also want to get rid of the gray coloring. Hit A1, and on import, I can just hit delete on my keyboard there. Hit A1, go back to my cover sheets, and just click somewhere and stop recording. So let's review back what it had recorded. It went to the raw data tab, it selected a whole row, it went down, clear contents. Clicked on A1. That's all fine and dandy. And went to the working tab. And here, I'll just start separating. Working tab. Went, it selected rows 8-2. Not sure why that. Select everything, and then import. Select the rows, clear contents. As you're working around your workbook, you might have extra things like, you scrolled to the left, you scrolled to the right. You don't need this, it's extra noise. Get rid of that. And then you went back to your cover. And let's add back in active workbook dot save. And we can do our message box. And actually, we can just copy what we did before. Paste. And this was the workbook, this was the module that the recording made. But that's fine, I can still keep this. I'm going to rename this module b.cleanup. Close that. Just make sure I'm saving. Close. And now let's go back to insert, make a new button for our cleanup button. And hit OK. It already has the circles around it, so I'm going to highlight all of this and do cleanup. And let's do one more round from start to finish. Highlight all of our data. Oh, and one more thing. Actually, I should have deleted that too, so let me do that. Back on our cleanup module. Let's do this. There we go. Include rows 1. Row 1. So the reason why it's already delimiting is because it remembers. Sorry, I need to be selected in the cell that has data. It already has that tilde there. So if I don't want it to delimit it already, I can set it back to, do it by tab. So now, copy, paste. And now it looks like how it did before. And I could have left it as is when I ran the macro again, because it needed to be separated anyway. But it was just a quick tidbit. Everything's all good. And organized data. And our little pop-up came up. Complete. The macro is completed running. So it separated the data, highlighted the column headers. Everything looks good. It made new rows. So we have one row for each dollar amount for costs, tax, and shipping. And we have our final cleaned up import file. And let's pretend I copied the import tab to new workbook. It's saved. I did what I needed to do with it. So I'm done with this information. So if I go back to my cover and click cleanup, the pop-up appeared again. Macro finished running, click OK. So now going between all of our tabs, they're all cleaned up. Granted, this is still yellow, but You know what? Just cause we're here. Just cause we're here. No fill. There we go. I bet you that recording appeared in this module. Yep. I'm just going to steal this. Go back up here. Paste. There we go. And now I can get rid of this. And how about I can change this? I can say file is now ready for next use. And for the title, I'll say cleanup complete. Okay, one more time. I'll just leave it, that's fine. We already went over it. Organized data. We got our pop-up. Looks good. I saved my workbook somewhere else, yada yada, did my thing. So now I can clean up my workbook. Cleanup complete, file is ready. It's now ready for next use. Oh yeah, no more yellow at the top of the raw data tab. And we still kept our other column headers just for our own reference later on. And there you have it. So during this recording, we went over how to use a do until loop to copy data down for each row. We also used the method of, for the description, moving over to a column that has data all the way down, and then using shift down to find the last row, and then offsetting it to go back into the last description field to do Control Shift up to copy the formulas that way, which is much faster than using a loop. And the final option, using the ability similar to double clicking the bottom right corner of a cell to copy formulas all the way down. We use the autofill to accomplish it that way. Also faster than using do until. But there are many ways to accomplish the same thing within VBA. Timestamps will be provided down below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video to be helpful and wish to spot me a coffee sometime, you can leave a one-time tip or donation at ko-fi.com/VeeBee coding, which is always appreciated. If you have a scenario in mind, feel free to forward them to me at askvbcoding@gmail.com, and I'll consider them for future videos. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you again for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.